Dub Nation. After the final buzzer. This is where you come for instant post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dub's OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
That's right, but a little gold on each, even more impressive than his. Okay! From the logo! Says the three-point king, Steph Curry, is in the house. I'm going to go ahead and get a few off myself. A 34-footer from LeBron. He's 4 for 4 from three-point range.
Yeah, massive night from LeBron James, and the Warriors, not enough offense, got off to a horrible start in this one, down 26 in the first half, 20 at halftime. A much more competitive and intense second half, but the Warriors end up losing down the stretch. Another clutch game gone by the wayside. Warriors with a chance to maybe steal this one. I know the officiating frustrating from the Warriors side of things as well. Many calls down the stretch that had the Warriors really up in arms, and it all adds up to another loss on a day where they introduce Jimmy Butler to the fold prior to the game down at Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles. We welcome you into Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader. 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627 to give us a call or shoot us a text as we come to you from Los Angeles, and we come to you with the Warriors losing 120-112 in this game. Appreciate everybody, as always, watching on YouTube and Twitch, and folks filing in here to the YouTube chat, a lot of the regulars, and a lot of frustration tonight. A lot of frustration tonight. LeBron James, let me just say first and foremost, LeBron James was just spectacular in this game. For him to be doing what he's doing at 40 years old, and just the 4 3-pointers in the second quarter, the back-to-back-to-back 3-pointers in the second quarter, 42 points, 17 boards, 8 assists. He had a block and a steal. I mean, just unbelievable stuff for LeBron James in helping to lead the Lakers to this win. Steph Curry ended up with 37, but he had to take 35 shots, and Steph just cold throughout most of the night. The Warriors ineffective a lot of the times when the Lakers blitzed, and the Lakers are blitzing and blitzing and blitzing. And, man, there are so many times where it feels almost like the Lakers know the Warriors' actions when they blitz the Warriors better than the Warriors know them offensively. The Lakers' defense knows what the Warriors are going to try to accomplish offensively, and you see it with LeBron so much, just getting in the passing lanes and the anticipation as to where the Warriors want to go. There was a point where, I mean, they had a double before, they had a double before Steph Curry even had the ball back after he got it out of the double and then relocated, and they set a screen for him, and Looney flipped it to him, and they had him doubled before the play even had been able to take effect. And it was just kind of that kind of night in terms of just frustration, even though Steph tried to drag this team to the finish line the best he could. But again, bad first half and just not enough offense. Steph ends up with 37, but it takes the 35 shots. Buddy Hield, 15. Draymond Green, I thought he really ramped up the intensity in the second half of this one. But this is a game the Warriors lost in the first half. I mean, it was a brutal first half showing. The Warriors were down 20-8 halfway through the first quarter. They were getting destroyed in the paint. They were getting destroyed in transition. Down 34-21 at the end of the first quarter were the Warriors, and they got outscored 18-2 in the paint and 10-0 in transition. There was a point in the first quarter, I marked it down as a potential low point for the Warriors this season, just in terms of being depleted and obviously the guys that were sent out to bring Jimmy Butler back into the fold And they had a Brandon Pajemski, Pat Spencer, Moses Moody, row post lineup out there at one point in the first quarter. And they were just getting dominated. LeBron mentioned that stretch in the second quarter. He ended up with 4 threes in the first 5 minutes of the quarter. He hit 3 straight. Warriors found themselves down 59-33. That would be as much as they would trail by in the game. Ended up being a 20-point game at halftime with the Warriors down 69-49. I don't know what got into the Warriors at halftime. A little bit of pride, a little bit of being embarrassed. The competitive nature was much better for the Warriors in the second half. And Moses Moody playing the power forward spot. Kerr went to Moody. Quentin Post out. Draymond playing center, and the Warriors immediately get off to an 8-0 run there. They cut it down to 12. It kind of lived in that 8 to 12 point range for a good part of the third quarter. The game was getting chippy. Warriors had cut it to 6 a couple of different times, but couldn't really get it closer. Bad close to the third quarter. Lakers pushed it from 6 back up to 11. And it ended up being a quarter the Warriors won 30-21. The Warriors won the third and the fourth quarters in this one, outscored the Lakers in the second half 63-51, but they still lose this game by 8 after trailing by as many as 26 in the first half and 20. And just, Brandon Pajemski, worst game for Pajemski since prior to his injury when he really struggled mightily in the first half of the season. Had a couple of good games before his injury. Has been pretty damn good since then, and he was the guy that ended up with a lot of the open looks off of the trapping and blitzing that the Lakers were doing against Steph Curry, and he just, as like many of his teammates in this game tonight, could not knock those buckets down. Pajemski 3 for 10, Buddy Hield 5 for 13. The Warriors so often will make the right play and get the ball to the middle and have somebody cutting to the basket for a layup, and they just can't finish. Pat Spencer was a spark for the Warriors at one point, carrying them in the fourth quarter. Spencer and Moody among the positives, I thought, for the Warriors tonight. Steph in the second of a back-to-back, just emptying the tank, 37 minutes. Can't buy a bucket for the most part. Ends up still 13 makes and 37 points. But 6 of 20 from three-point range, and you add it all up, and again, that with some of the officiating and just not enough offense, and you can see tonight one of those nights. On the one hand, it becomes crystal clear why, if you're the Warriors, you'd be looking to add someone of the ilk of Jimmy Butler, but on the other hand, tonight's also one of those nights where you look at projecting Jimmy Butler onto this team and everything he brings to the table, and you still seem far away when you look at where this team is at. And I think, with Butler taking the spot of Wiggins, and I do think Butler obviously a better player than Wiggins, and a guy that can, score more consistently, a second option that has the ability to open up everything for everybody else. Do the Warriors still have enough other scorers, even with Steph and Jimmy? Those two are really going to have to carry a lot of the load if the Warriors are going to be able to make something of what now is the final 31 games, and they dip back below the 500 mark again as they continue the win one, lose one, win one, within a game of 500 and 500 after every 2-game interval. And it sounds as if Jimmy Butler is going to make his Warriors debut in Chicago on Saturday, and given the way the Bulls have played and some of the trades that they made at the deadline, Chicago, it's primed to continue. But Mike Dunleavy, we're going to get to it coming up here. Mike Dunleavy speaking pregame at Crypto.com Arena in the Warriors press conference room. He really made a point to say it's go time with 32 and now 31 games left, that they've got a lot of work to do, that they're not where they want to be and have to get this thing going. And so we'll play a lot of Jimmy Butler sound as well here as we roll on to the evening. But I want to hear from you, 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. The Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open, and already folks chiming in there. 408, we'll just read one right off the top. JD, would you say the only way this season is successful is making the playoffs? Yeah, I think so. I think at this point, I mean, given where the Warriors are, and all you got to do is look at the standings right now, and I mean, the Warriors are under 500. Sacramento lost tonight in Portland. They're not playing as well of late here. Again, dropped their first two with Zach LaVine. But, I mean, if you look at the NBA standings, and I'm bringing them up here, for where the Warriors are now, and they are tied with the Kings and basically a half game back of Phoenix. I mean, not much change there. The Kings are 10th, Warriors 11th. San Antonio's on the Warriors' heels, 12th. But, yeah, I think making the playoffs, whether it's via the play-in tournament or finding a way to have a real meaningful stretch here in the final 31 games, is the only thing that can make it a successful season, because it would feel like you're building off of where you are now, to be sure, where it and even just within the last couple of weeks seems so bleak. The Warriors at the back end of that 4-2 homestand ended up with a little bit of energy, but it was starting to go down the road of, what are these guys even playing for before those last couple of weeks. And then, the other thing about tonight is it relates back to last night. I mean, you can lose the game tonight and second of a back-to-back, and you have a bad first half and you fight back and you lose the game. But this is where losing last night just is crushing. One of the worst losses, I think, of the Kerr era last night, up 11, 3 minutes to go in Salt Lake City, and you end up blowing that one to a Jazz team with a bunch of guys out at the bottom of the Western Conference barrel, completely out of even play-in contention. And now it turns into two. And you're starting this Jimmy Butler era at one game under 500 on Saturday. And it's just another hill that you have to look to continue to climb up. And so it just – and look, they've got no choice. They've painted themselves into the corner. And the other big takeaway for me today, too, is the trade deadline. The loss last night, coupled with the game tonight and how frustrating, maddening it was tonight to just look at the Warriors have a chance to steal it, but also just not have enough, and just see LeBron able to perform at an extremely high level at 40, and basically see the Lakers take the Warriors' aging star completely out of the game. LeBron had the ability to carry his team with a competitive effort by others to a victory. And Steph was trying and just didn't have it at the level that LeBron did. And Steph, in a lot of these games, whether it's the careless turnovers or some of the, I don't want to say shot selection, but he looks tired. He looks like an aging player on a lot of nights. And, he played the second of a back-to-back, which I think at this point is commendable, because I don't think the Warriors want to be putting him in a position to be doing that a lot. And he just doesn't have it consistently at the level that I think the Warriors need him to have it consistently to win. Now, they may not have enough anyway, so I'm not just throwing it on Steph like it's completely his problem, but I do think you always also have to look at your best players. And 37 points, but inefficient with some turnovers, and they just need a more complete and efficient type of a game if they're going to have a chance. But Jimmy Butler's on the way. The other quick thing, and I started to mention this, and I got a little bit sidetracked, is the trade deadline passed today, and the fact that the Warriors did not use their expiring contracts is mind-boggling to bring in more shooting, frankly, because I still think that's something that this team lacks. And we'll see how it all shakes out with Jimmy Butler. But Kevon Looney and Gary Payton II are, for all intents and purposes, not going to be on the Golden State Warriors roster next year. And I understand the fact that Steve Kerr, with the infusion of Jimmy Butler, and again, we're going to play a lot of what Jimmy Butler had to say pregame before the Warriors-Lakers game down here in Los Angeles. And the vibes seem good. He seems ready to roll. He's happy. He got his contract extension. He said he thinks he's found his joy. He's looking forward to playing with Steph. It's not a great choice, not necessarily a second choice, because we all knew at least wanted to go to, preferred to have gone to Phoenix above anything else. But I think Jimmy Butler's going to be a good soldier about this whole thing, and I think the Warriors are going to get a motivated Jimmy Butler. But Jimmy Butler wasn't the only thing that the Warriors needed to try to accomplish at the deadline, in my estimation. And I know Steve Kerr loves Kevon Looney and loves GP2 and adored Andrew Wiggins. I get it. And Wiggins obviously had to go in the deal to bring back Jimmy Butler. And I think there were maybe some concerns that were addressed internally regarding Butler's infusion into the rest of what the Warriors have, and those concerns about potential locker room friction, or maybe some guys not buying into Jimmy being brought in and being a big part of the equation here. Having vets that can help blend everything together like Looney and GP2 are important. I don't want to completely discount it, and I'm sure Steve Kerr made the case as to the benefits of having those two players on the roster down the stretch here, especially with so much potentially volatile change in the Warriors environment, by just dropping Jimmy Butler in the middle of this mediocrity and having Jimmy Butler pregame today talking about championships and the like. And we'll see, because they're not anywhere close to a championship. Like, that's, completely off the table at this point. To me, that's almost a see where you are at the end of the year, as I've said, and then what do they do in the offseason? But you'd be closer to being able to have a conversation about it if the Warriors – there's just no way in my mind that the internal benefits of the leadership and the understanding of the system that Kevon Looney, as beloved as he is, and Gary Payton II, as beloved as he is, matter more than using those contracts that will expire at the end of the year to acquire a player that can fit into this new look Warriors scheme. They needed to find a rotation player. They needed to condense those two contracts into one player and have it be a player that could be traded in the offseason to help augment the roster, or somebody that could be potentially useful on this roster next season, and potentially traded if there's a move to be made at some point down the line a year from now. And so, this team's not good enough in my mind to just let that pass. And again, no disrespect to Kevon Looney or Gary Payton II. Champions, pros, leaders, great people. And look, Kevon Looney at times gets Steph Curry his best looks on the entire team with some of the dribble handoff and screens and just understanding of the system. When GP's cooking defensively, there are nights where the Warriors really need him, but it's one every 4 nights at this point. And in a perfect world, you need a big. In a perfect world, you could keep Looney as a second big if you get a big that can shoot the ball from the outside with some consistency, which allows Jimmy Butler to be able to flourish more and allows Steph Curry more space and allows somebody that, if the ball gets swung to him, can knock down a shot. It allows Jonathan Kuminga to be more playable and more versatile positionally as to where he'll be able to play. And so I just think it's a couple of steps forward with this Jimmy Butler thing, and we'll see how it plays out for the Warriors. But I think it's a couple of steps backward in not looking to try and continue to augment the roster today at the deadline. I think it's an opportunity missed for the Golden State Warriors. And I really think that it showed tonight, even though they wouldn't have had that player playing for them in this game tonight. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Dimitri in San Jose is our tip-off caller tonight here on The Sports Leader. What's going on, Dimitri?
Hey, man. How's it going? Thanks for taking the call.
Yeah, you got it, brother.
So I wanted to talk about the Jimmy trade. That's some big news. I mean, I was, chatting with my brother about it yesterday when it all, kind of unfolded. And the two of us were kind of concerned about what we gave up. And, at first it was the $56 million player option, but now it's, $121 million extension. So yeah, I'd like to get into some of that.
Yeah, I mean it's 1 year basically added on. So he gave up the player option year. So that year it became 2. So you basically added 1 year on, and you add the year on to basically not be in the same position Miami was in, where he would have this potential either for him to leave. You weren't going to trade what you traded for him to be a rental, right? To where he could leave at the end of the year, and you don't want him to opt in and then be pissed off the entire time he's here because you didn't at least add 1 more year to the end of the deal. He was looking for the Suns were prepared to give him 3 more years on top of the one that he had coming, and that was why he preferred the Suns. When the Suns deal fell apart, and they couldn't get with Miami to make a deal, and they couldn't move Bradley Beal's contract, the Warriors had the 2-year, which is really 1 additional year offer out there, and Jimmy decided to take it. That's almost the cost of doing business, Dimitri, to get a happy Jimmy Butler. So that's the risk that the Warriors are taking. They're basically paid him for the extra year to ensure that the next year and a half is harmonious. And so you're paying that fee, right? Because you don't want him to kind of be in lame duck mode to where he's all ticked off and causing distractions and potentially getting suspended. So what were your thoughts on it?
Well, on the note of the happy Jimmy scenario, the way I see it is the Warriors were really in the driver's had a little leverage in these conversations, because the way I took the 3rd suspension was that Jimmy Butler would not play another game in a Heat uniform. So the fact that we gave away our most consistent player this year in Andrew Wiggins, and in addition to that, 2 guys who have been filling some roles, filling some time, had quality minutes against OKC. I went to that game. And then a 1st-round protected draft pick. I feel like just given that, I personally would have gone to the table and been like, listen, you've got a guy on your roster that's taken up a lot of cap space that's not going to play for you again, and then negotiate down from there. And I feel like we gave up a lot. I think it was a good deal. In the end, I'm happy with it. Between, Steph's magic and Jimmy Butler's Superman mode in the playoffs, I think we're in a good spot right now, a better spot than we were. But in order to get there, I'm a little wary that we gave away Wiggins.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, it had to be Wiggins or Draymond in terms of the salaries, and the Heat were more interested in Wiggins. It sounds like in the Durant deal, maybe the Suns would have been more interested in Draymond had it gone down that route, at least what had been reported. So if you want to make the move, I don't think the Warriors really wanted to give up Wiggins either, but he's the one guy that you have to fold in there to make the salaries come close enough to matching to where you can even do the deal. So, I mean, that again is kind of price of admission. And, Kyle Anderson wasn't playing a lot. Lindy Waters, I think, is a very nice, 8 to 13th man, probably 9 to 13 man on a team. And, you look at where the Warriors are at, and those guys that are, those are guys that for them are expendable. And Schroeder's another guy you need to make the money work, and then you got to figure out who your backup, point guard is going to be. It sounds like it's going to be Podziemski. I think it really is going to be Jimmy Butler to some in terms of the primary ball handler when Steph Curry's not on the court. So I don't know if they gave up too much.
Well, I love
go ahead.
I love the idea of Jimmy Butler on ball because he's great at creating opportunities for himself to score. And then with Steph, I mean, yeah, he's looking like an aging player. He's looking tired out there. He's been carrying the team all year. but he's still unmatched when it comes to off-ball offense. And so I'm excited
and they'll have more
that.
opportunities to do that. They will definitely have more opportunities to do that, which I think has the potential to keep them fresh. Dimitri, thanks for the call. Good thoughts. We really appreciate it. 808 KNBR, Dimitri's line open if you want to jump in and join the conversation via the phone lines. Looking at the folks in the YouTube chat, good to see Andis and Estimated Eyes and Enter the Draymond, Mickey D, Robert Rebel to Sounds, Buco Sports, Adrian, welcome. Adrian, we appreciate you. Bees Knees, jokes on you. Getting to all of your thoughts coming up here on the other side. And then we will also get into what Jimmy Butler had to say in his pregame press conference from Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles earlier in the evening. Warriors lose this one 120 to 112 to the Lakers. 808 KNBR. We'll be back. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
Dub Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to get Jimmy. He's an elite talent, one of the best playoff performers in the league. And, it's a huge addition for us. So I'm excited. I haven't even met him yet. He hasn't gotten here yet. So I'm excited to just say hello and welcome him aboard and get to work.
Yo, Dub Nation, Jimmy Butler here. Just touched down, do this physical. Super excited, ready to win, ready to work, ready to put on the show for y'all. Let's get it. Championship coming soon.
All right, Jimmy Butler there on the ride over to Crypto.com Arena tonight after getting his physical. Actually was in LA, came up to the Bay. I think may have recorded that even in the Bay on the way back to maybe the plane to head back to LA and meet with everybody. The trade becoming official right about 5:15 tonight. And then Jimmy Butler meeting with the media at Crypto.com Arena before the Warriors took on the Lakers. Lakers win 120-112. We're back here, Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader. And I thought it was interesting. Steve Kerr saying that he's never met or interacted with Jimmy Butler. Looking forward to him. Didn't really know or have a feel for the kind of person or player in terms of somebody coming into the Warriors locker room that he would be, and that he was looking forward to being able to sit down and talk with him. Warriors are going to be on the road, so they're going to have a lot of time to get together and watch film and try and get with the brain trust and figure out some things because they're headed to Chicago and then Milwaukee and then a couple of more games before the All-Star break with a day in between and a back-to-back Houston and Dallas first, and then Houston, and then it's the All-Star game at Chase, and the Warriors back at it after the All-Star break. So a lot to figure out in a short period of time, and they're going to have to do it if they want to try and make a run to escape the dregs of the play-in tournament and try to make the playoffs, because they are currently still on the outside looking in at 25-26. I think championship is that is a bridge too far, I think, at this point to be noting. But again, I think, Jimmy Butler has a high standard, and I think the Warriors have a high standard in looking to acquire him. And, Steph Curry addressed that the other day, the fact that it ramps up expectations anytime you bring somebody in the caliber of Jimmy Butler. Disappointing tonight, the awful first half, more competitive second half, just not enough offense in the second half, losing a bunch of key moments where it looked like they had a chance to maybe steal the game. Warriors frustrated with the officiating at multiple different times in this game as well. I'm not a blame the officials, kind of a guy, but I do think there were tonight some swing calls that clearly the Warriors felt they weren't getting. I don't know that I've ever seen somebody get a technical foul, by the way, Kyle, and we'll bring in Kyle Har here briefly, and we'll get back to the phones. Kyle, I don't recall ever in my years of attending NBA games as a fan or covering the NBA where a player picked up a technical foul in between two free throws that he was shooting. And that's what Draymond, that's what happened with Draymond tonight. In between two free throws, Draymond picks up the tech.
Also, I was a little bit confused because when they called the tech, I thought it would be on LeBron for taunting.
Yeah, he was egging on the crowd. I had a great seat tonight. That Warriors basket in the second half. I was basically in the corner right behind the Warriors basket on the opposite side of the floor from their bench. So it was on the opposite side there on that baseline. And so I had a great view of all of that. And there was the 8-second call, which was clearly missed as the Warriors had the Lakers trapped, and Draymond just lost his mind on that. I know there were a couple calls that really had the Warriors bench up in arms with Steph. There was one time Steph did legitimately get hit and knocked down on on a drive attempt, and Kerr was really frustrated about that. But the 8-second call was missed. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I looked up. I mean, it was by the time it was maybe 13 on the clock at the point in which Draymond was screaming about it. And obviously once it gets to 16, that's 8 seconds in terms of the shot clock. And it was down to 13-12 almost in the moments. And it ended up being a bucket going the other way for the Lakers. But yeah, that was what had Draymond incensed. And he brought a different, he was on one in the second half tonight. I don't know what was going on. He was low energy as the Warriors were completely in the first half, but Draymond was on one in the second half in a big way. And yeah, LeBron basically laughed because he knew in the moment that he got Draymond, or the circumstances got Draymond to lose his cool. And so he incited the crowd. And at that point, the game was decided. And there were 2 or 3 different times, I thought, down the stretch there where, excuse me, Draymond might just get run. And it ended up not happening even in that stretch, but he did pick up the technical foul in between the 2 free throws, which is something that you really don't see very often. All right, YouTube chat before we get back to the phones, and we'll get to Jay, we'll get to Fozzie out in the East Bay as well, and clean up check line 2 for me here. I've got a little bit of a typo on line 2, if you can, Kyle, to make sure we've got the correct name. All right. I thought that was our buddy Clement. But yeah, okay, that works. So I'm going to make a note of that. And let's also just welcome a few chats here as, you look at tonight. Rebel to Sounds. We'll see if Butler stops getting free throws in a Warriors uniform. Yeah, Jimmy Butler, he gets fouled a lot and gets to the free throw line a lot. And a lot of it is isolations and post-ups. And I think that's something that every Warrior fan was kind of thinking. You know, sometimes when it's the Lakers that you might come up with what seems like an unfavorable whistle. But I think a lot of people were also factoring into Jimmy gets a lot of calls and free throw attempts. And so I think Warrior fans are thinking, oh, well, let's see how that ultimately shakes out. But yeah, we'll see what happens as far as Jimmy Butler when he gets out there. Pat Spencer was really good tonight. And he made an impact. I thought Pat Spencer made a case to close the game tonight. Kerr went back to Podziemski. Again, Podziemski's going to be somebody that the Warriors are going to need, and he had played pretty well up until tonight. But tonight, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, not a great Podziemski night, and he was the guy that just kept getting the rock. Him and Buddy Hield keep getting the rock in opportunities where you need a big bucket. You hit an open look and all of a sudden everything looks a little bit different. When the Warriors were in that 6 to 8 point range, got it down to 5 a couple of times, you hit one of those threes and it's a 2-point game, and then maybe it's really game on down the stretch in that one. So let's get back to the phones here. Jay in Rancho Cucamonga up here on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Jay?
Hey, JD, you're down here actually, huh?
I am. Yeah, I was able to be at the game tonight and be in the house for the Jimmy Butler press conference before the game. And it was not the outcome Warrior fans were looking for, to be sure, but a good atmosphere as always.
Yeah, I'm a transplant. I grew up in the Bay Area. I'm a lonely Warrior. They're down here. Warriors and Giants fan, and then Niners. My girlfriend actually is a Laker and Dodgers. But an Eagles fan. But I do love your show and your knowledge. I'm really excited, from the trade because we needed to do something. And I agree that we missed an opportunity. I didn't get to catch the game tonight because me and my girlfriend went to a thing tonight. But I'm driving home right now, and I'm listening to some of the things. One thing I'm curious. What is the timetable for Kuminga? Do we know yet, or do you know anything more about how he's coming back, or what?
Yeah, it's likely after the All-Star break, and I'll let you finish. I mean, he just got his first individual workout in, I think, pregame yesterday in Salt Lake City. So he's still a couple of weeks away, and the Warriors are a week from the All-Star break. They'll play a week from tonight, and then they will not play again for eight days, basically. They play next Thursday, then they don't play till the following Friday. So there would be no reason to rush and attempt to get him back here in the next week. Then he gets another week, and I think you're looking at shortly thereafter when they return from the All-Star break toward that final week of February.
Okay. Well, that'll be promising, but yeah, I don't think, I mean, anything can happen, of course, but I don't think they're in championship level. Clearly, the Lakers look a lot better, but I just feel more positive because even if they get far in the playoffs, I would think that bringing him here, he's got that another year, and then if we look like we're not heading in the reverse direction, looks like we have, then it would make there'd be more players wanting to come here. So, okay, they're that much closer to a championship. I want to play with Kerr. I want to play with Draymond. I want to play with Butler. That's what I'm hoping. It's kind of, what the Giants are trying to get back, or with the Niners or something like that. That's what I'm hoping. But I'm much more excited.
Yeah, look, it gives them a chance to contend. It doesn't make them a contender, but I think the trade is the first step toward giving them a chance to contend. Again, I'll say it over and over. I think they missed an opportunity in not making the most of the expiring contracts of Kevon Looney and GP2. And you never totally know what's out there, what the offers are, what teams want in terms of draft capital attached to those players to get another player. But I think their value to bringing another player in is greater than their value in the last 2 months of the season to this team, knowing that they're probably both not going to be around next year. That's just the reality of the situation as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I mean, I think this is almost it's a 2-month trial to figure out where you are. You see if you can build momentum by trying to get into the playoffs by any path necessary, and then you figure out how far away you are from where you really want to get, and you use the offseason to reshape the roster around Steph, around Jimmy Butler, and around Draymond Green. And then you start to figure how many of the young guys are a part of it. You're going to have to get some new veterans with some different skill sets that complement that core group. And then you go from there. The Warriors do have options. They did not mortgage the future in what they did yesterday, Jay. So I think that's the good thing. They got the number 2, but they didn't mortgage the future.
Well, good. I love your show. Keep up the good work. And we actually have rain down here. We needed it so bad, and we obviously got to experience it. So, but
yes,
love the show. Yeah.
Thanks, Jay. I did. I got a chance to walk around a little bit around downtown Los Angeles earlier today, and yeah, wasn't too bad. It was drizzling a little bit, throwing a light coat, and just kind of walk around and have a coffee and just take everything in here, scrolling and figuring out what the heck was going to happen for the trade deadline as the Warriors ended up not making a move. All right, Clement is next. Our buddy Clement in San Leandro here on the Sports Leader at 808 KNBR. Hey, Clement.
Hey, JD. Thanks for taking my call. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, doing well, man.
I couldn't agree with you more. Tonight's loss was bad, but mixing with last night's loss to a pretty much horrendous team makes tonight's loss hurt even more. And so just kind of discouraged the way things have been going. Besides the Jimmy Butler trade, but I was kind of baffled today that given Joe Lacobs and Mike Dunleavy's aggressive nature, that they didn't do nothing. I for sure thought they were gonna get a big man or another shooter. So that's just kind of discouraging that they didn't do anything to try to put us over the top to make it into at least the play-in, but into the playoffs. And I'm not even sure that that's in the equation, because of, what we didn't do. And don't get me wrong, I love GP2 and Looney, but
totally.
Since they're expiring contracts, we should have did something.
Yeah, it's not personal. They're champions. They've been a part of some big moments and helped this team. They're likable guys in the locker room. They're likable guys to talk to just as a media member. They're likable guys to watch if you're a fan. I mean, all of them. I mean, they really do exude the positive things about what the Warriors had built here over the last 10 plus years. But there comes a time where only the great of the great are able to survive, honestly, because you got to shuffle the rest of the roster around your best players the best way you can. And you can't let opportunities to have in the Warriors position, especially because they have a couple of extremely high-priced players now in Steph and Jimmy Butler. You can't let those opportunities with guys who have expiring deals leave without turning them into other players, because you basically end up only able to replace them with minimum players or draft picks. And that, makes it a lot harder to be able to continue to augment and build your team the way you want to build it. Clement, thanks for the call, my man.
Thanks, JD.
All right. From Clement, 808 KNBR to Fozzie in the East Bay. What's going on, Fozzie?
JD, my bro, what's good, man?
What's good, man? Long time no chat. I know you're in the chat. I know you're always kind of skulking around listening, but good to hear from you.
Yes, there. I'm always trying to be positive in the chat. Shout out to the chat on my YouTube family over there. But yeah, man, look, I'm gonna sing a different song than these other two callers calling about. I think I'm gonna be more optimistic as far as what Jimmy Butler is gonna bring. I think, all these clutch games that the Warriors find themselves into, seems like damn near every night. I think Jimmy is the guy that's going to be able to pull us through these close games and win most of them. If, I'm not expecting him to be the reason why we turn the whole season around, but all these clutch games that we've been, we're in all damn near every night, I think Jimmy Butler will help us win. I think, the last possession where the refs missed on that, I think Jimmy puts the heat on it, and, it's a turnover there, and then we get the ball back, and then Steph Curry hit a deep three with 1 minute left, and I felt like we had a chance there, but, man, let's face it, we all kind of knew that it was over. But I really think that Jimmy will be, he'll give us that spark that we need. And as far as the rest of the trades go, I know you're talking about GP2 and Looney, and we could have got something back for them. But, like I said, trades are hard. And I'm glad that, we didn't get rid of any of our young guys. So, you know what? Let's bring Jimmy in. Let's see what we got. I think we'll scratch and claw our way into the dance. And that's all they need. You get playoff Jimmy, you get playoff Steph, and we got magic, baby. Cheers, boys.
Well, that's it, Fozzie. I mean, it really is. I think it's harder for them to get in over the final 31 games than it is to do some damage in once you get in, because of Steph and because of playoff Jimmy. That's the part where I think you needed one, maybe two more regular season type players to help guide you through. All right, let's continue here with Ken in Portland, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. When one person drops off, that's your cue to jump in and join the conversation. A lot of people that want to chat on the phone lines, and we always appreciate it here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Ken.
How you doing, John?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. What's I got you loud and clear. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, first of all, I just want to say, appreciate your show. It's the best post-game show out there, and I've been turning to it more and more often. It's just fantastic. So thank you, you and your whole team. You guys are doing a great job.
Well, we really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to continuing this thing, and we got a lot of big things planned, and it's people like you that help keep it going. So thank you for that.
Well, I think that your format and the diversity of viewpoints you get with the easily accessible call-in and then putting it out on the web where everybody can hear it, just the combo there's a wisdom to the crowd, but you got to access the crowd to get the wisdom. So
yes, exactly. It's a show for the people, Ken, and it doesn't matter how you consume it. Some people it's podcasts, some people it's YouTube, some people it's traditional radio, but you can't only do one anymore. That's the way of the world in 2025.
And a lot of great comments in the chat too. So it's just great. Anyway, hey, regarding what you're saying, this is a big couple of days here in Warrior history. These last couple of days, this trade for Jimmy. I mean, you know, I was listening to Monty talking after the show. There was not really like a consensus. This was not a comfortable consensus, but I feel like Lacob kind of flexed a little bit here and, you know, made that call to get Jimmy in there, and it's not going to be comfortable. But you know what? It's been comfortable for years, and it's been mediocre for years. And maybe it needs to be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean they ran it back after winning the title and the Draymond punch of Jordan Poole, and again I think that season gets a little bit miscast in this season and last season. They still won a round, even though it was a disappointing regular season to be the 6th seed. They did fight their way to the 6th seed. They did play a quality series against the Kings. They did take the Lakers to 6 before it they ran out of gas. But if you look at it, I think, it's the last 2 years. So because of that year, they doubled down on last year. When last year didn't work and they kind of doubled down on it again, I think that's where the frustration comes into play. We're not doubling down on it a third time. And so I think that's where it was gotta look to make a different move. And I'm with you. I think it was a little bit of Joe Lacob saying we need to be a little bit more comfortable being uncomfortable, whether that's Steve, Steph, Draymond, everybody else. Right. And I think Dunleavy was on board with that as well. I don't think it was just Joe. Yeah, I think maybe the reluctance comes from Steve and even Steph and Draymond a little bit.
Sometimes I think you get, in any organization, there's a group of people that have had success with how it's been, and credit where it's due, right? Those guys won 4 championships. They went to 2 other finals. They're phenomenal Hall of Fame players and a coach. It's a run. It's a run unlike the Lakers of the 80s or the Bulls of the 90s. I mean, it was a run right up there like those in the last 45 years. So there's no doubt. There's no doubt. And there is an appropriate amount of respect. It was the 49ers of the 80s, or even, the first half of what the Patriots had cooking there for a long time. It was all those things. Right. And while we're giving those guys the credit there, deservedly, at the same time, the front office needs to take some heat for kind of screwing up their mojo after the 22 championship. I feel like it was the front office more than the players that prevented another solid run after the 22 round. To go on what you were saying just a little bit ago, when you go for a championship, you got to be all in. You got to be all in. You got to utilize every spot on your roster to cover whatever the eventuality is. If it was baseball, you need a right-handed hitter on the bench, and you need another right-hander on the bench for if it goes to extra innings, And that year they won it, up and down the roster, with the exception of, I think Wiseman was on the roster, every other guy on that roster that year could play. Juan Toscano Anderson, Damian Lee, Moody, and Kuminga were rookies, but they could all play. The whole roster could play. And that missed opportunity after the Butler trade to just maybe trade Buddy Hield, another one of Kerr's guys, and he's kind of got his ideas about small ball that I think are about 5 years out of date. They could have traded one guy and gotten back 2 or 3 guys that sort of fit what they're trying to do and had a complete roster for the rest of the year. Now, it ain't over. They might find a couple of guys on the buyout market to help them out. They got to do what they can do, but they got to try to be all in, not just for this year, but for next year and the year after that too.
Yeah, and one missed opportunity I do think today in not using those contracts, but all they can do now is try to finish the season strong and then take another look at it in the off season. And I think the picture will be even more clear one way or another as to the direction that they're going. And you're right, it wasn't an all in. Ken, it was and that's the one thing I will say, even having 24 hours plus here to digest what the Warriors did, and we talked about it a lot last night. They did protect, they went and got the number 2 that they were looking for next to Steph. They had to give up Wiggins because of the salary to do it. They gave up a pick they weren't real keen on using in 2025, the protected first round pick. And then it was, you look at Kyle Anderson, you look at the other guys that end up going, Lindy Waters, Dennis Schroeder, you look at all of that, and those guys, they were expendable, easily expendable. They didn't give up any of the young players. They didn't give up any future Steph beyond his career draft capital. So all those things are still there for them. But they kind of went the route of appeasing everybody, right? Joe wanted a change. Everybody wanted a number 2. Steve, I think, wanted to keep Looney and Peyton for the locker room a little bit, and they didn't want to give up Kuminga or Moody or Pajemski or Trace Jackson Davis, so they didn't, or future first round picks beyond the one this year, so they didn't. So they didn't quite go all in yet, but they still have the ability to, and I think they're going to have to be even more aggressive this offseason, depending upon where they wind up. Thanks, Ken.
And you can get locker room guys for a veteran min. You don't need to pay $17 million for your locker room guy.
Yeah, well, and that was the other part of, and I'll end it on this note with you. It as much as it would have stunk in some ways for Steve and for the Warriors to trade, Kevon Looney gets traded to Charlotte because that's the team that would facilitate taking him to get a player from another team that maybe you would want. Well, there's nothing that says Kevon Looney can't be a free agent that comes back on a minimum deal in the fall next year, and GP comes back on them because they're probably going to be looking at those types of contracts anyway, but you use their slot to help improve the roster now. And if you really like them and you need them and you have a role for them, you can bring them back. Now, not everybody's always going to be willing and desiring to do that. Some people may get offended, but again, I just don't think this team was good enough to continue to not look at exploring those options, but they made the choice. And we'll follow how it goes. The big key is going to be just what they get out of Jimmy Butler here between now and the end of the season. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. It's John Dickinson here. It's Dubs OT with JD here on Esports Leader. Appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch. 650 quibbling. Nobody walks in LA. I walked around today. I did. 408, Buddy ain't it. On Buddy Hield, I get it that I mean, there's a lot of bad defense and bad plays and, the hustle play. Like, he might actually make a hustle play and then make one of the most boneheaded plays you'll ever see in your life. Immediately following it, he'll hit a couple shots and then he'll miss a wide open one at a key, momentum swinging portion of the game. I really think on the Buddy Hield front, the Warriors are kind of stuck playing him. And I think Kerr knows it. It's not Kerr's a big Buddy Hield fan or doesn't know that he doesn't have deficiencies. I think it's a matter of there's only so many guys who can shoot on this roster, and those guys have to play. I mean, they just don't have enough of it up and down the roster. Guys that are so you need that's why he's still starting. I mean, you need, and I think we'll see what happens when Jimmy Butler ends up there. I think he's probably still going to start with Jimmy Butler at least initially, and then I think their best option is probably Pajemski. A lot of people would say Moody, that Moody flourished again tonight at the 4. How does that work? He was playing the 4 in the second half with a 3-guard lineup and Draymond Green at center, and that's where Moses Moody made his greatest impact on the game, and that's where Moses Moody made his greatest impact on the game for the last 2 weeks. Basically because Anderson was out and Kuminga's been out and Draymond was out, and they didn't have anybody to play the 4. So it's the inability for some of those guys to fill into the roster slots that would truly make everything else fall into place a little bit more consistently. All right, let's go ahead and get a couple more. Let's get to the chat a little bit. I feel like I've been neglecting the chat a little bit tonight. I get off onto my different screens. LM was asking, where did Kyle Anderson end up? Kyle Anderson ended up in Miami. He was going to go to Toronto, and then that fell through, and then Miami ended up taking him. So he's at Miami. He's got another year in his deal. So I think that would not make him a potential buyout candidate. Some frustration with the officials, Rebel DeSounds. All those calls against the Warriors down the stretch were just to make sure the Lakers won. It is crazy how many different times different teams find themselves having the same gripe when they play the Lakers. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Again, I'm not a crush the officials guy. The Warriors played a horrific first half. I mean, horrific. They were getting run out of the freaking building in transition. They were getting run out of the building, points in the paint. The Warriors actually evened up points in the paint, 50-48. So they shored that up. And the fast break points is really where they got smoked. 35-9 fast break points in favor of the Lakers. And as much as it felt like the Warriors were hanging on the fringes of this game down the stretch with an opportunity to maybe steal it, they never led in the game either, after trailing by as many as 26. And again, nods to Moses Moody and Pat Spencer, who were productive players off the bench. And tonight, I think there was a case to be made for Pat Spencer to maybe finish over Podziemski. Didn't happen. Podziemski did, 8 boards, 7 assists, but Spencer was making a positive impact on the game when he was out there in this one tonight. More from the chat. Let's see. Okay, a lot of individual conversations in the chat here tonight. Kyle, you have a couple in the chat. San Jose Jazz fan 4, not enough defense. JC Mack, I hope we get a vocal Jimmy Butler to keep Kerr accountable. I think Jimmy's going to be ready to go. I really do think from the pregame press conference, and we're going to play a little bit of that coming up at the top of the hour. We're going to basically make our full Sounds at Dubs OT at the top of the hour here after our next quick break, all about the Jimmy Butler pregame press conference. Joe H. Dunleavy gets a C- for trade performance. Well, he certainly doesn't get an A because he didn't use all avenues allowed to him to revamp the roster, but he did get a number 2. Now it's an older number 2 and a number 2 that they had to pay an extra year of $60 million for, but he did get them the number 2. Let's see how it functions. They didn't give up the future. They didn't mortgage everything. So we'll see how all of that ends up shaking out. No Cap 757, frustrated. This team is just embarrassing, non-athletic, no offense. Every other NBA team has actual NBA talent level players. This team does not. Most should be in the G League. That's probably a little bit extreme, although I will say, the one guy I will say, Jackson Rowe. Well, I mean, what are we doing there? I mean, Jackson Rowe getting matched up on LeBron and just, barbecue chicken. Just absolute. Kyle, you want to jump? Jackson Rowe, and then he shoots an air ball on the other end, and Kerr just was like, all right, I guess I got to take you out now. But then it ended up with Buddy Hield on LeBron, and Buddy actually did okay on LeBron. Pat Spencer stoned LeBron on a play tonight, Kyle.
Yeah, no, I was about to say there were a couple of times where Buddy Hield was your last man of defense, your last line of defense, and he was the rim protector trying to block LeBron. I was like, okay, that is not going to work. But Buddy did actually hold his own.
He held his own a couple of times.
Yeah, a couple of times.
No doubt.
Sorry.
And
I wanted to point out that one play where LeBron was backing him down and LeBron hit the side of the backboard. And I don't know if that was because of Buddy's defense.
Steph forced a miss when he got a switch and held his own with LeBron trying to post him up. He got a good look, and it ended up going in and out. LeBron shot there, but on a night where LeBron was just looking for those mismatches like he always does, and looking to shoot the three on some, looking to get to the rim on others, looking to get fouled on others. I mean, he just his command of the game at 40 years old. I feel like he's better at 40 than he was at 37. I don't know. Like I know when they won the title 5 years ago, I mean, I get he would have been 35 then. That was the end of 2020, 35, 36, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like he's better now than he was 2 years ago. More consistent now, shooting the ball better, just more command. Even now, it feels like he's taken fewer plays off. As you know, I think there was a stretch there where he was really taking a lot of plays off. I don't know. I've been impressed with what I've seen. Maybe I've just seen a bunch of his better games. I thought he was phenomenal against the Knicks last week, the game before the Luka trade. I'm like, Jesus, this guy's 40. Like, what is going on here? Like, incredible. And it was something, and the crowd was into it tonight. And it was, I mean, it was that would there when he hit the 3 straight threes and pulled up from the logo. And I mean, it was like, geez, like witnessing greatness. I mean, it's incredible. You know, when you walk around the arena here, and look, I know Warrior fans don't want to hear it. Bay Area fans don't want to hear it, but it is like you walk around the arena and it's like, oh, there's the Magic Johnson statue, and there's the Kareem statue, and now there's a Kobe statue, and Shaq, and there's just all Elgin Baylor and Jerry West, and there's all these statues of all these greats, and you're thinking, damn, there's going to be a LeBron statue, and now there's probably going to be a Luka statue in like 20 years. So it's incredible. The rich continue to get richer. Andis in the chat, Spencer, changing my opinion of him. Actually looks like a guy who'll stick in the league. I like his aggressive play. Like he scraps. He definitely scraps. City Boy 415, can we tell Pods he ain't Steph? He definitely was not that guy tonight. It just, frustrating night when guys get open looks that are missed. And B's knees, Lakers missing their trade pieces too, still wax the Warriors. Yeah. Recently, Anthony Davis had been the barometer for the series. We mentioned that when they were at Chase last week, or the week of the 25th, I guess it was, on that Saturday night. And usually it's been Davis that's been the guy that when he plays, the Lakers win. When he doesn't play, the Warriors have had a better shot to win. I guess they did have a better shot to win tonight. But no, the Lakers still they just have guys that are 6'8" and built and move around and attack and just they trap, and it just the Warriors definitely and especially from having the quality seat that we had tonight, being able to watch things up close. I mean, you could tell the size difference even among the guard and wing players in comparison to the guys the Lakers are trotting out and the guys that the Warriors are trotting out. CB, nothing new here. Even with Wiggins, Warriors lose like this too. Let's hope Butler will add some fourth quarter intensity. I think that's what they're hoping, and the caller addressed it. They are hoping that Jimmy Butler will help them in clutch games. They're hoping that Jimmy Butler's competitive spirit will be contagious. And they're hoping that it'll take a lot of the pressure off of Steph Curry. One more here. Joke's on you. How does this team not have a true center at this point? Again, I think Looney's a nice backup. I think we're seeing more and more TJD ain't it. You need a stretch big. You need a guy like Looney. And you also need a lob threat. Like, you really need three different guys. You need, in a perfect world, you've got a guy like Looney. that knows the system, great veteran leader, steady. You can plug him in certain matchups. You need a bona fide stretch. Like, I like Quentin Post. He's been fine since he's been getting opportunities, but you need a guy that's a grown-up NBA version of Quentin Post. Like, you need a guy that has done that. Like, his career is, you need a Bobby Portis or a Brook Lopez or a Vucevic or even a Kelly Olynyk, who's, Quentin Post may turn into a guy like that, but Kelly Olynyk's done it for a decade. What Quentin Post has done for 5 games. So, and may still flame out. And so you need a guy like that. And then you need a guy that can be a vertical spacer lob threat. The Warriors, they kind of have some of it. TJD's a poor man's version of it. Quentin Post's a poor man's version of the other. And Looney is Looney. But if Looney, and at times Looney's the best guy. And I think that's where you run into some problems. And yeah, I agree. Post is probably, too young there. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll get sounds of Dubs OT here, more from the YouTube chat, fun with numbers as well as a couple of names from the buyout market. Warriors lose this one 120-112. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
Well, Jimmy Butler's now happy on the court. Again, we'll get to that coming up in just a second. It's Dubs OT with JD from Los Angeles as the Warriors lose to the Lakers 120-112. We'll go ahead and make this our final segment here on this Thursday. Back with you on Saturday morning, 10 to 12 with just Dubs here on KNBR and on the KNBR YouTube stream, YouTube and Twitch. And Warriors and the Bulls, could it be the Jimmy Butler debut in Chicago on Saturday evening, where Jimmy Butler used to play at the beginning of his NBA career? All right, let's hear from Jimmy Butler coming up. But first, one clip from General Manager Mike Dunleavy as he met with the media pregame, and he discussed the fact that the Warriors have finally, to the I think belief of a lot of fans, finally chosen a path here for the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that sense we've picked a path, and it fits the 2-timeline approach.
Couldn't help
I had to get that way. No, I mean, again, I think we've picked a path, and we're going in a direction, and we have 3 kind of older generational players. But the beauty of the whole thing to me is we've got a lot of good complementary pieces. We've got assets. We've got young players. So in some ways, in terms of our financial stuff, there's a commitment. But on the whole, I think we'll have a lot of flexibility and ability to improve the roster, change things, do what we need to do to complement this core.
All right, so yeah, flexibility and assets. And again, I thought that was the interesting part, was the fact that they are in on the older veteran players, the high-priced 2, really, in Steph and Jimmy Butler, and then Draymond as well. And I thought it was interesting, and the 2 timelines joke aside there, I do think the Warriors kept in some realm 2 timelines alive, in that they still have the guys that we've talked about so much, Kuminga and Podziemski and Moody and TJD, and they still have their picks beyond the 2025 protected that they're sending to Miami in this deal. But I thought it was interesting, and Kyle, I want to get your take on this real quick. I know we got other sound to play, but he referring to the rest of the roster as assets, other than complementary players, but asset. To me, that I thought was a little bit of a tell of, hey, they might be guys that are suiting up, but they also might be guys that would be included in deals to help build the roster around the real path that the Warriors have chosen.
Yeah, and whether that means they deal Kuminga in a sign and trade, or whether that means, I don't know, further down the line they deal Pods. I think the only 3 players that are for sure going to be here until throughout 2027 is Steph, Jimmy, and Dre. I mean, even Jimmy, you never know in that last year of his deal.
Yeah, it's really Jimmy's getting paid for the next 2 after this year, but it's really the next year and a half. It's how far can it go this year, and what can you truly make it next year? Because I think, as we've seen, anytime you get into the final year of a Jimmy Butler contract, Kyle, things might get a little bit iffy. Things might get a little bit iffy for the team and player.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's just going back to, we don't know what this team can do. I think the rest of the season is just evaluating what you have. And then next year, it's actually hopefully getting a real shot at it.
By the way, Steph Curry, I'm watching some of he is just now meeting with the media downstairs at Crypto.com Arena. Our buddy Austin Scott on the KNBR digital team is down there, but I'm looking at Anthony Slater, and he had quick posted a video. Steph's got a knot above his right eye on his forehead. And it's just, yeah. And as Steph joked, I'll read the quote, no foul though, but he's got a knot. And I guess Steph said it was on the play where he got crashed to the ground. And that was the one that really had the Warriors bench and Steve Kerr up in arms down the stretch in the game when it seemed like the Lakers were just at the line a lot. And some of that is matchups and the fact that the Warriors defensively, athletically can't always hold up against the Lakers, but it just felt like, man, every time the Lakers kind of needed to stabilize, the Warriors were fouling them or the officials were putting them on the free throw line. But yeah, Steph with a legit knot on the forehead there off of that one. All right, let's hear from Jimmy Butler. We'll run through a bunch of these here as he met with the media pregame in Los Angeles. And the first clip, Jimmy asked about the marriage of second choices, right? The Warriors wanted Durant. They got Jimmy. Jimmy wanted Phoenix. He got the Warriors. How does that all shake out? Here's what Jimmy Butler had to say.
This is a great choice. And the best part about everything is I never say anything. So nobody actually really knows what's really going on because it never comes from my mouth. So out of everything that's been going on, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be able to play basketball again, meaningful basketball at that. So I always leave it at that. I'm able to go and go out and do what I love. And I'm happy that it's for an organization like Golden State.
All right. So yeah, Jimmy's, it's all cryptic messages, man, and leaks. I'm never actually saying any of this stuff. You're just hearing it, but I'm not necessarily saying it. Okay. Fair enough. I suppose. But yeah, I think as long as Jimmy got paid for at least another year beyond what he had the ability to control, which was through next year, I think Jimmy Butler is going to be happy at least through the end of next year. So I think that, a lot of it was posturing. I think a lot of it was, he addressed this, and I think this is one of the clips we're going to get to. If it is, I'll be a little bit redundant, but he did say that in addition to the fact that he'll fit into the organization and all of these different things, he did feel like he wanted to be wanted and maybe felt a little underappreciated, whether it was some of the comments from Pat Riley or the Heat organization. I think he got to a point where he felt unappreciated. And whether that is the tune of Pat Riley saying, hey, I'm not going to just give you another $200 million for 3 years. I think there's a debate to be had, especially given, at times Jimmy's availability has been a question. At times it's funny because he's somebody that goes really hard when he's locked in and engaged, but he also at times has been a little bit of a PTO guy. It's like weird illness, needs a night off, what's going on, mystery kind of injury, general soreness, those are the kinds of things that, the Warriors have historically been very comfortable giving their own veteran players the benefit of the doubt when it comes to being cautious with relatively minor type injuries and ailments to prevent them from becoming bigger things. I think the Warriors, my words, not theirs. I think the Warriors are in a spot now where they're expecting Jimmy Butler to be playing unless Jimmy Butler is legitimately freaking hurt. Like the PTO days and the second of back, you're not paying $60 million a year for no back-to-backs and going to need, 2 or 3 games a month off. And no, you're basically paying Jimmy Butler, who's already had a lot of time off, to play the last 31 games beginning on Saturday in Chicago as long as he's healthy. And so, I'm interested. And I think, Steph playing tonight maybe sets a little bit of that tone as well off of the game in Salt Lake City. All right, more from Jimmy Butler before this game. And next up, a question about just where Jimmy is at mentally given this break, his hiatus that he's had, his sabbatical. My words again, not his. Here's Jimmy Butler.
I'm at a really good place mentally. This mini break that I didn't want but had during the year. I got to spend more time with my kids, more times with my loved ones, and to reflect on a lot. But I'm in shape. I'm ready to go. I've been training. I've been running up and down, laughing, smiling, and having fun. But now I get to do one of the things that I love more than anything, and that's to compete.
So there it is. And I think, the Warriors are convinced that they're going to get a Jimmy Butler that wants to compete at the highest level. And I still think he's good enough when he's on the court to warrant that here for these next 31 games plus the 82 of that 2025-26 season. Next up, Jimmy Butler asked how his playing style fits with the Warriors.
How do you see yourself fitting, like, on the court and their play style and what you bring to do?
We good. Pass the ball to Steph and get out the way. Easy. That's okay. He can still make it. I saw it in the Olympics.
There you go. Pass the ball to Steph and get out of the way. And that's like, look, the one thing I'll also say about Jimmy, Kyle, is he's a wild card, man. Like he commands a room, and he's kind of half kidding, half serious, and he's super intense. And like the Warriors, even with their 1 game under 500 record right now, the Warriors are with Jimmy Butler back on the NBA map. And I'm not saying they ever left because of Steph Curry and because of Draymond Green, and they still, with Steph, are a top ratings team. It's why they were playing tonight. It's why they're playing every game against the Lakers and the Celtics and all these games. Why they have the maximum amount of nationally televised games. Jimmy Butler's only going to add to the focus and I feel like it's going to start to have a little bit of a dynasty years type feel, not in terms of necessarily the success, but in terms of the microscope. I think the microscope is coming back, because the reality is the Warriors, say what you want about what level of star they are at this particular points of their individual careers, but Steph Curry moves the needle like really nobody else in the NBA other than maybe LeBron. And Draymond is everything that comes with Draymond, and Jimmy Butler's got a little bit of that wild card personality. So I think, does that give them energy moving forward? I don't know. Does it zap them? I don't know. I think they kind of, there's a part of me that thinks that the Warriors right now almost need that night to night microscope on them, or maybe not microscope, but spotlight on them. Once they get, I really think that could level up Steph Curry's game here between now and the end of the season, and it's basically a 31 game season to see if this team can get into the playoffs. All right, moving on. The basketball fit, the play style fit. Next, Jimmy Butler was asked how his personality will mesh with Draymond specifically, and how Steph Curry's shooting ability will make his job easier.
I think our personalities are going to be fine. I would like to say that I am a winner. I haven't won it, but I would like to call myself a winner. I do want to win it being a championship. And as far as playing with Steph, everybody knows he's the greatest shooter in the world, greatest shooter in history. Makes my job a lot easier. I probably got a lot more space out there. But more than anything, I think it's always going to be a team effort. We all got a lot more space out there. So we'll see how it goes.
Indeed, we will see how it goes. And I think Jimmy and Draymond are going to be fine. Like, I don't think that. To me, it's more some of the other guys on the rest. Like, I think Jimmy, Steph, and Draymond are going to be fine. It's just, does Jimmy maybe look to lead in a different way than maybe some of the guys who have been here or some of the rookies are used to being led, if that makes sense. All right, final cut, and really we could have played probably 5 or 6 more, to be perfectly honest, and we may get into a lot of these again, because I did think it was a highly entertaining and informative introductory press conference at Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles prior to the game. Final one, though, and this was a question you knew was coming, and I think a fair one. Jimmy Butler was asked about if he regrets how everything played out with the Miami Heat.
Hey, Jimmy, are there any regrets on how this whole process played out?
Only one. I just opened my coffee shop in Miami and can't go there no more. So we're going to have to figure out a way to get one in San Fran.
I mean, again, like you don't know, Kyle. Like, is it going to be, I don't sense a lot of anger, but I do sense a lot of Jimmy likes messing with people. Like he does. Like he in that press conference setting, he just likes messing with people. And there were some subtle jabs, and he referenced knowing the game in Miami. He's got the game in Miami in March that we mentioned still to come. His return to Miami will be this year and in a month and a half. That was referenced at one point, but yeah, no regrets other than the coffee shop. And yes, Otis Bird, I was waiting, Otis, to see who would say, "Oh no, he dropped to San Fran." Who that isn't from the Bay? I feel like everybody makes that mistake that's not from the Bay and then has to get it corrected. And I think it'll pretty quickly get corrected. I didn't have an opportunity to catch him, in the back of the room after with nobody around to be like, "Hey man, don't say San Fran," but somebody will to be sure. I think everybody gets a mulligan who's not from the Bay. All right, so that'll do it for our Sounds of Dubs OT. Jimmy Butler edition here following the Warriors 120-112 loss in LA to the Lakers. Final couple of chats, and then we'll do our Fun with Numbers segment, and we'll pack it up and we'll call it a night. Regulator, all this panic makes it seem like they're 15-36. No, but again, 25-26 is not anything to write home about, and they have been unable to separate at all. They still have an opportunity. What's it going to take? Can they go 20-11? Can you go 20-11? I think that's probably a tall ask. That's probably too much to ask. But 20-11 gets you to 45. You get to 45, you're 45-37. That would be right in between where you were 2 years ago, 44, and where you were last year, 46. So, I mean, it is. But look, the Warriors did that last year. They were 27-12 in the final 39 games of the season. So, look, you got Jimmy. You didn't get Jimmy Butler in the final 31 games to go 16-15 because you've been doing that. So you got Jimmy Butler these last, to at least go, 20 and maybe 20-11, at least 18-13, something like that. 19-12. I mean, there really isn't. No cap Warriors have the worst roster in the West. They don't have the worst roster in the West. They don't have the worst roster in the West. All right. Couple of more here. Would the Warriors lose to the Spurs in a 7-game series? I don't know. Let's see if they get to play a 7-game series at some point in the near future. San Antonio's not going to be a lock to just make the playoffs now either. I mean, they've got they're further back. Yeah, the Blazers are hot. They beat Sacramento tonight. Kings are 0-2. Kings have low-key even before the trade deadline, and they got to get Valanciunas in there. They got Jake LaRavia today, which I thought was a nice little pickup down the stretch. The Blazers beat Phoenix a couple of times. Blazers are beating everybody, I think 6 in a row here. Pretty hot down the stretch. But, yeah, Sacramento's low-key come back to earth the last couple of weeks, but they still have a couple of those kind of nutty comeback wins that have sort of saved them. They are, and we'll see. I mean, they've got the Pelicans. How about this for closing out the first half? The random fact, Kyle, the Kings play the Pelicans 3 times in the next week before the All-Star break. They play them 3 times between Saturday. They play them 3 times in 6 days. And but the Pelicans beat them 6 times last year. But this is a different Pelicans team, obviously, than the Pelicans team that made the playoffs last year. But I digress, and we shall see. Again, when you make moves, as a bunch of these teams do, I think it does take some time to build some continuity. So I'm not saying the Kings are out and they're done and all of that. But it's going to be highly competitive. That's the reason I brought it up. The Blazers are competing. The Spurs are competing. The Suns are going to have to try to figure it out. A bunch of these teams in that group with the Warriors are disappointed with where they are. Minnesota was a play-in team at the beginning of the night tonight. So it'll all have to shake out. All right, final couple of minutes here, and that's fun with numbers time.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, we'll make it snappy here. Warriors lose their second straight. Man, the loss last night is even more of a crusher now with the couplet with the loss tonight, 25-26. Third consecutive loss on the road. They're 10-13 now on the road. The next 4 are on the road: Chicago, Milwaukee, Dallas, and Houston. And the Warriors 4-5 in the second game of back-to-backs. They're 6-3 in the first game after dropping last night. Third straight clutch game for the Warriors, and they're 32nd overall, tied with the Timberwolves most in the NBA. The Warriors had gotten above 500 in clutch games. They're now 16-16 in clutch games, now 2-23 when trailing or tied going to the fourth quarter. And the Warriors got smoked in transition tonight. That's one of our stats of the night here tonight, and really I think the difference maker in the game. 35-9, the fast break point number. That is an opponent season high against the Warriors. Steph Curry, 37 points. Buddy Hield, 15. Moses Moody, 12. He's been in double figures 10 of the last 11 games that he's played in. Pat Spencer, second game in double figures this season for Pat Spencer. And Draymond made a couple of three-pointers in this game tonight. Made both of his. He was 2 for 2 from three-point range tonight. Warriors not winning as much as they used to when Draymond made multiple threes. Only 8 and 7 overall in this season when Draymond makes multiple. All right, that's going to do it. Kyle, great stuff, my man. Really appreciate you. I saw Overnight Dave in there. Who else was back in our studios tonight helping out? Was Cole there?
We had Cole. We had Casey.
Wow. Cole Appelt, Casey Copeland.
That was it.
No, that's it. I even and Jordan and
I did
Kyle Chung.
I did want to say that we are going to have a lot more sound about the Jimmy Butler acquisition.
We could have played every clip. I mean, I was sitting there in the room. We could have played every clip. We could have played it. We could have played the whole thing raw. Maybe we play the whole thing raw on Saturday as well, because I did think it was that entertaining and introspective. All right, for Kyle and Cole and Overnight Dave, we appreciate you. Casey Copeland. Austin Scott doing a great job down here in LA as well for the KNBR social team. Rough travel day for Austin getting from the Bay down here, but he made it. He was ready to roll, right? He beat Jimmy Butler to the building, and that's all that matters. And he's cooking downstairs in the press conferences still as we speak. We'll talk to you Saturday, 10 a.m. until noon. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
That's right, but a little gold on each, even more impressive than his. Okay! From the logo! Says the three-point king, Steph Curry is in the house. I'm going to go ahead and get a few off myself.
John Dickinson.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Big audio quality show.
You are a sicko, and I appreciate you for it because I'm a sicko.
I just know they kicked our ass tonight.
No class, no balls.